Former UFC middleweight champion Luke Rockhold is back in the news after saying that the middleweight division is ripe for the taking and saying he can beat Israel Adesanya. And I quote from an interview with Brett Okamoto at ESPN, "I know what Israel's capable of. I've been studying Israel for a long time. I appreciate his style, but I think he's beatable in so many ways. I don't think many guys can fight him from the outside like I can. If I just stay relaxed and stay on the outside, it's a game that I can play. And then if we go into the takedowns, I'll do a lot better than Jan did. I'll tell you that." That certainly sounds like Luke Rockhold confidently stating he's going to beat Israel Adesanya. I have so many things to say about this and how just utterly ridiculous Luke Rockhold's statements are. But I know you're a little bit of a Luke Rockhold guy, Drake, so I'll let you take the floor first. What do you think? What do you think about this?
Yes, I am a Luke Rockhold supporter. I like the guy as a fighter person. Obviously, I could go without some of the things he said. The Chris Weidman thing was a little insensitive, to say the least. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, said he had feminine shins. So that's that. That's that. Anyway, yeah, as for the Adesanya comments, it's very, very interesting to me, right? Because as much as I do love Rockhold as a fighter, I think that in his prime, he was just so fun to watch. And I don't want to say was underrated. I think he got pretty proper amount of appreciation. Of course, there were a lot of people who hated him because of his personality and whatnot, which fair, but like the guy was very, very good. Maybe not like the best ever, which some people went on to kind of say, oh, he could be the most talented, that kind of thing. But as for a matchup with Adesanya at this stage in particular, it's like, it's very hard to assess Luke right now when he's 1-3 in his last 4 since being champion, mind you, and hasn't been all too active. Obviously, that Blachowicz fight was actually in July of 2019. That feels like it was longer ago than that even, but obviously that was a while ago. That was at light heavyweight. The thing is, too, I actually don't think that he looked as horrible as maybe many people think in the Romero and Blachowicz fights. And reminder that Romero was overweight for that one. But yes, obviously got knocked out, and that's kind of become the thing is, all right, his chin, is kind of problematic. And as he gets older, that's not going to get better, presumably, unless you're Andrei Arlovsky, who just has some kind of secret medicine for that.
Yeah.
Maybe you should hit him up, Luke. But a prime Luke Rockhold, a Luke Rockhold who can show up and, take some clean shots, I think is actually a pretty interesting style matchup for Adesanya and can give him problems. Like he says, being patient. If you do look at that Blachowicz fight, I think he did very well in the first round. It was mostly kind of clinch heavy up against the cage from what I remember. And that was kind of how his David Branch win was as well, his last win. If he can, get Adesanya in that position, which is a lot easier said than done, I think that would be his best bet to getting things to the ground, where Luke Rockhold, this is somewhere he's underappreciated. And especially as time has gone on, the guy has historically had one of the best top controls that you'll ever see, especially at middleweight, like just borderline impossible to get off of you. We saw that against Machida, of course, the Weidman fight when he was just, fight should have been stopped in the 3rd round. One of the worst no stoppages from Ol Herb Dean you'll ever see. The way he beat Tim Boetsch, one of my favorite performances ever. Locked in that inverted triangle Kimura, spinning off of the double, like ridiculous sequence there. Luke Rockhold on the ground is phenomenal. And I think that we just haven't got to see that in these losses because he's got knocked out before he's gotten the fight there. So with a striker like Adesanya, of course, if he is to touch this Luke Rockhold, it's probably not going to be good. But again, Luke's not a very aggressive, in your face kind of striker. He is pretty patient, especially if you do just look at really his whole career. He's never been that guy. And that's not a game you want to play against Adesanya. But again, I think that's that would be helpful for his style. So, of course, I'm not going to say Luke beats him right now with what we've seen recently, but I think that a guy with his style in his prime, definitely Luke in his prime. I would love to see this fight. Right now, though, it's really hard to say. And of course, he's always going to be very confident in himself. That's just, people will say arrogant, which is totally fair. Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. The guy seems like he just wants to fight anybody, though, which I really like. I want to see him against anybody, and surely we'll get into that, Pat. But I don't know. This isn't the most outrageous stuff I think that he's ever said. I will say that much. You may disagree. But yeah, it is what it is. I just want to see Luke back.
Yeah, I'd like to see Luke back. I agree with that. I would like to see where he's at. And yes, in his prime, I mean, he definitely has one of the best top control you'll ever see. He really was a great, well-rounded fighter that could, stand and strike with you, but also take you to the ground and really just, his ground game, I would say, was even a little bit underrated in his prime. But the problem is, Drake, is that it is 2021 right. And Luke has no chin. I believe I was scoring the fight for Rockhold before Jan knocked him out. I think I actually, he was winning that fight. But I mean, he has no chin whatsoever. And against Adesanya, the most, that precision, that technical striking prowess of Adesanya, I can't see any way that Rockhold would actually win this fight unless Adesanya got cocky and did something stupid. Like try and throw some crazy spinning thing or go for a roll like he did, I think, against Rob Wilkinson, where he tried to roll through for a heel hook or something. Like doing something like that, then you're in trouble. Otherwise, it's just a matter of time before Luke Rockhold gets knocked out by Israel Adesanya. It's, his chin is not there. It's gone. For him to make these comments.
Let me do quick devil's advocate for his chin being absolutely gone. He did get knocked out by Jan Blachowicz and Yoel Romero, who are absolute knockout artists, which, yes, that doesn't help at all. But just they hit harder than Adesanya, I think. That's fair to say.
I think that's fair. But he also
all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Bisping was clean. Bisping was just clean.
It was just clean. All right. He also got rocked by David Branch. He got who else? I'm looking through here now. And that's really the last four he's had, right? So yeah, the fact that David Branch was able to rock him was a little concerning. He survived that and went on to win the fight, but yep. When you're looking at it, the issue is his chin is not there against elite strikers. If you want to say, okay, his chin's not completely gone and use those examples, that's fine. But Israel Adesanya is probably a more deadly, accurate striker than both of the men you mentioned. Yeah. And it's been he's only gotten older. He hasn't fought since 2019. I really don't think he has any chance in hell against Adesanya. I think he has trouble even in most of the middleweight division. I think Robert Whittaker cleans his clock. I think, Kevin Gastelum could land a big shot, end the night right there. When you look at the middleweight division, and this is something that I've pointed out multiple times, and really why I'm excited for the Adesanya-Vettori matchup is it's mostly strikers. You've got a couple of jiu-jitsu people and whatever, but you don't have a bunch of wrestlers. You have mostly guys, or you have wrestlers that want to stand and bang, although Derek Brunson did come to his senses and seems to have learned some defense and not wild throwing. So I'm impressed by that.
Very much so.
Yeah. But other than like Hermanson, and Brunson, again, with his new style, you've got pretty much just a striker's row. And I think Luke is going to run into a lot of problems. I think Cannonier could clean his clock. There's so many bad matchups for him from power strikers where he could win or he could, eat a shot and be knocked out. He is the new Overeem of the middleweight division, is really what it comes down to. And these strikers are much more accurate and much more deadly than, say, I love Mark Hunt to death, but Mark Hunt. So
Overeem beat him.
He did. All right, which is my point.
Fair.
Yeah. So
yeah, no, that's a great point. When you really do think about it, like, I think that many of those guys outside of like Whitaker and, of course, they're winnable for Luke. But that's the problem, is because of his striking style and it being relatively patient. I wouldn't say counter heavy, but he takes his time. And against these guys who might go and overwhelm him, could catch him in that flurry, or pressing forward, dictating the pace. Maybe even jab him up a little bit, just kind of put a volume kind of game on him. That's very possible. And then the problem is Luke going to get things at the ground, which he has tried to do in, at least the Branch fight, and then Blachowicz. Things were working out not terribly against Yoel. It might have been one apiece, I think, before that third round where it got ended, from what I remember. But obviously, Yoel pretty counter heavy and takes his time as well. So Luke was able to do pretty well against him until he didn't, because that's what third round Romero was a thing at a point, if everybody remembers. Monster. But yeah, against these guys, and then when he gets into those exchanges, like the Blachowicz knockout was off an exit in the clinch. Like, he's got to get into that position, and then when he is, everyone's generally going to try and get away, because they do respect Rockhold's game for the most part. And then he's playing with fire just whenever he's around a strike, right? So I won't disagree with you there at all. But yeah, man, that leads us to, I think, who should he fight next? And I think there is a perfect answer. You already mentioned his name, so I'll see if you take it again. Might be the one I'm thinking of.
No. Who are you thinking? Who's your perfect anser? You can't say you have a perfect answer that have me go
I know. I think it's Jack Hermansson. I think Jack Hermansson's perfect for many reasons. I mean, you look at, he rebounded against Edmund Shabazian. That's good. Rockhold he's lost 2 in a row, but the last fight was at light heavyweight against the now champion. Of course, just that one win since 2015. That's crazy to say. In middleweight, but Hermansson kind of needs to do some work to get back up the ladder with who he's lost to recently, and Luke to jump right back in. Still, obviously, a name, a unique matchup for Hermansson because of the styles, like you said, and a favorable one for him. And if he wins, gets him kind of to where he wants to get back on track too, so I really like that one. I would love to, just for the ground aspect. That's really what I want to see. Like, I love that fight stylistically more than really anything,
Yeah. I want to point out that my light has gone out twice, three times now, while I've talked about Luke Rockhold. This is just the MMA gods being like, no, Drake. He'll get finished by anybody, Drake. That's exactly what's happening. And yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm just going to do this last part in the dark, I guess. I like that matchup a lot. I think that makes sense. But there is another guy that I think is a better test to see where he is. And that, to me, is Uriah Hall. That's, Hall has been, making his way back up from really being that contender that never really panned out. He's switched over to Fortis. He's done some more work there. But he's a very slow starter, right? And he's got that dangerous power punch. Hypothetically, if Luke is in a good position to make a run at the title, I'd like to see him fight Hall first, because hypothetically he should be able to get past Hall no problem if he really thinks he can hang with the top 5. And that's also a number 8, right? So it doesn't, immediately, if he goes in and he fights Hermansson, he beats Hermansson, he immediately jumps to number 5. And that's, I'd have a little bit of an issue putting him over guys like Till and Hall without fighting him. Even Gastelum, I think, would be an interesting fight, I think, to see him in. So I like those a little bit more. Hall, for me, is a great test because we know Hall has knockout power, but we also know he's a slow starter and kind of a low volume guy that if you can overwhelm with pressure, you can kind of get your way. And that's, he's also a good, type of guy for me that I think would mimic an Adesanya fight in a way, where Adesanya is gonna, be back and wait for Rockhold to come towards him. But seeing that Rockhold is also similar that way, you don't know if you end up with Yoel Romero or what have you. But yeah, forget that fight. But I like that fight a lot. But otherwise, I think Hermanson is kind of the perfect pick.
Well, I think you kind of just changed my mind there. I think that I think that Kelvin is actually might be the guy for me now. And when you look at the rankings, right, Kelvin's behind. He's the lowest out of this totem pole. And I do like that Uriah Hall idea, but I think that for that to happen, we need to see Uriah lose his next fight, which is against Sean Strickland, which that is made now.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
And I mean, Strickland would have been an interesting guy as well, who's really making the climb. Not quite a big name yet, but an entertaining guy who's racking up the wins. If you want to really give Luke a layup, I think you go with like a Yatko maybe, who just lost to Strickland, right?
Yeah.
That's not to say that it would be a layup, right? But in comparison to everybody. But I really like the Kelvin one in terms of logic in the rankings, kind of. And these are both guys who it's kind of surprising they haven't crossed paths yet. If you think about, they're kind of a chance for that to have been there. And Kelvin, just coming off of that loss to Robert Whittaker, where he actually looked pretty good, but Whittaker just looked that fucking much better. Why not, get him in there with Luke, see where they both kind of stand at this point. Like if Kelvin loses to Luke, that's bad for him, right? But if he beats him, then all right, we know that he still can go somewhere, right? But a little bit crossroadsy, I feel like, with that one. So I think that might be, in terms of overall logic, I think we go with that one. But in terms of styles that I want to see the most, I like to see the Hermanson one just for the ground battle there. So
yeah, the ground battle there would be amazing to see. I agree with that. Let us know your thoughts on Luke's comments saying that he could beat Israel Adesanya, who you'd like to see him fight next, since he is, again, coming back, or so he says. So hopefully we'll get news of that soon. Let us know all your thoughts about anything that we've covered so far. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, bell notification, all that as well. And yeah, Luke Rockhold is back. It's maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in this next fight, man. Bad omens, though, with the light going out. I'll tell you that.
Stay tuned to see if Pat's light is fixed on next week's episode.